We know the truth now here. A lot of people think that the feathers or feather headdress started with Native Americans, but that's not true. Let's keep going. The feather on the headdress actually started with the teachings of Ma'at. You see, probably best known for the association with the goddess Ma'at. Let's keep going. Feathers were shown in the scenes of the Hall of Ma'at. It goes back way further than Native Americans. Now, you transfer that knowledge over to the knowledge of Horus, the falcon. Egyptians used falcon feathers, being sacred to the god Horus and used in various symbolic and religious contexts. Let's keep going. Now, what they don't teach you is the mound builders in North America are the first people to wear feathers on this continent. Let's keep going. The Mississippian culture did utilize falcon feathers. Falcon feathers symbolizes Horu ideology. It is not Native American ideology. We know the truth now. We know the truth.
It's in the Americas than there are in Africa. I'm currently standing in front of what is now known as Cahokia Mounds in Collinsville, Illinois, one of history's biggest mysteries.
Geoarchaeological studies of so-called mounds in North America proves that these aren't just piles of dirt. These were carefully engineered.
Cahokia was once one of the biggest cities in the world and home to one of the largest pyramids in so-called North America, known as Monk's Mound, which stands 100 feet tall. It had 4 terraces and covered 17 acres at its base. At its base, this pyramid is bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. A lot of people don't realize that many of the pyramids in the Americas have intentionally been destroyed and manipulated to make them seem like they don't compare in size to the pyramids in Africa.
They want you to think that this is just landscaping and piles of dirt, but I want to point out how easy it is to plant grass. All it takes is preparation and consistent care.
Cahokia grew from a small settlement to a booming city that stood right in the center of Mississippian culture. Cahokia thrived from 700 to 1400. The city reached its peak around the 1100s when it covered over 4,000 acres of land with a population of 10 to 20,000 people. It was spread out over 6 miles and larger than many European cities, including London. It also contained over 120 pyramids. Did you know that there are more pyramids in the Americas than there are in Africa? I'm currently standing in front of what is now known as Cahokia Mounds in Collinsville, Illinois, one of history's biggest mysteries.
Geoarchaeological studies of so-called mounds in North America proves that these aren't just piles of dirt. These were carefully engineered.
Cahokia was once one of the biggest cities in the world and home to one of the largest pyramids in so-called North America, known as Monk's Mound, which stands 100 feet tall. It had 4 terraces and covered 17 acres at its base. At its base, this pyramid is bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. A lot of people don't realize that many of the pyramids...
That whole, they ain't have no names and all that shit's a lot. Documentation from the CIA, best copy available. All right, y'all get y'all screenshots. So when you do your census records, if your people come from slaves, it will say that they were slaves. If your people was free, it will say that they were free. And guess what? Most of us come from free coloreds. Go figure. Niggas weren't even slaves, right? In 1920s, when Plecker and his friends got the Racial Integrity Act passed, colored had been defined as Negro, Booker said. Indians who had been considered colored, now were considered to be black. Were now considered to be black people, Negroes, right? Colored had been defined as Negro. Indians who had been considered colored were now considered to be black. Like the Aboriginal Australoids, they're called black people too. The indigenous Filipinos, who are the Negritos, they are called black people too. Actually, Negrito means little black people, right? So a lot of Aboriginals around the world are called what? Black people.
Say I didn't warn you. Part 3. If you missed 1 and 2, we've been talking about how the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Cherokee were members of the Mississippian related cultures. The famous mound builders, also known as the Muskogean people. And even though they eventually developed their own customs and languages, they shared a common trade language, again, despite tribal differences at some point, maternal lineage. And when I say mound builders, you see the green dots, but understand, I mean these. They remind me of the ones in Mesoamerica. You know, the Aztecs, who appeared in central Mexico around the year 1300 and claimed that they came from a so-called mythical place called Aztlan. But you said you wanted to go back to 1200 AD and beyond. So if we know that the Six Nations was united around 1200 AD, then we know that there was something before that. So Mississippian culture, related family group, these states began around 700 AD. Now I'm gonna move so y'all can see this, but this explains how their settlement patterns were typical of most of those found in Middle America as early as 850 BCE. The largest city called Ancient Aztlan. Now you can see here the woodland people, descendants of the Mau culture, had already settled at the site by 1100 AD, where they essentially turned it into a miniature version of Cahokia, which is found in Illinois. But as you can see here, by the year 1200, mysteriously, Aztlan and Trempealeau were abandoned, and at the same time, Cahokia slipped into decline. And here's where we find evidence of cultural interaction between the woodland peoples and the Mississippian neighbors, which allegedly is when civilization began to expand across the Midwest, giving rise to many of the smaller family groups known today. But that might be too much for one video. Let me know.
Get in here. Now this is crazy. Now this is crazy. So you think these people don't know who the first Mississippian culture is? Well, I'm about to show you this newspaper article that they tried to hide, and it goes deep in depth on who the first settlers of Mississippi was and the mound builders. Now, here go the whole screenshot, right? Take the screenshot, but I'm about to break this down. Okay, go and take one more screenshot. Now I'm about to break the article down where you can clearly see how they go in depth on talking about us. Go ahead and take a screenshot, and you can see clearly where they say Negro were amongst the early settlers of the state of Mississippi. And if you look right here where it calls us Indian, Negro Indians. Now go and take a screenshot, and here go the rest of the article, where it defines and explicit in details of the tribes of the territories of Mississippi. You see this? You see this, right? Some are acknowledged heirs. Look at that. The heirs. Who are the heirs? We are the heirs of Mississippi. Did you catch that? Oh, they hate that you got this article. But use it as you will. Use it as you may. All secret.
The Met Museum did an entire article on Mississippian culture. A Mississippian emperor from Florida. We know this information because the Met Museum did an entire article on identifying him. Okay, so let's take a look at the National Park Service, U.S. Department of Interiors. This is the archaeology program. Take a look at the timeline. 5000 BC to 1000 AD. The first mounds in the southeast used mainly to bury the dead were probably constructed around 8000 BC to 1000 BC. Okay, by around 800 AD, a distinct way of life was developing in the lower delta. Okay, check this out. 1000 to 1200 AD, everything is still cracking, untouched. No foreigners are coming in. We're not dealing with anybody outside. We're undisturbed. The whole way of life is still developing, still progressing. Everything is still cracking. Agricultural communities, storehouses of crops that are being harvested, just totally in a powerful position, totally in a complete position of power, unlike those that are across the water, that are coming from Europe, that are in desert lands in Africa. Okay, this is a oasis over here. Check this out, 1200 to 1400 AD. What's happening in 1492 in Spain? Okay, the Moors are losing. But what's happening in the Mississippi? It's still cracking. Bountiful trade, social religious customs, super sophisticated. Okay, we got the mound builder earthworks just taking off. All right, we have a southeastern ceremonial complex, which they call it that because it has a great connection and it's super similar to all of the religions that are going down into Mesoamerica, down into South America. 1400 to 1500 AD, it's still cracking. All right, it doesn't even end until the late 1600s. Satriona, this guy, lived in 1562. Do you understand that? This guy lived in 1562. This is another king as well.